Good morning from the city centre of Philadelphia. I'm currently in the Liberty Centre where the Liberty Bell is currently residing, and I think has been residing for a number of years now. And this is the actual bell that you can see here. The bell actually has a crack on it, and the reason that it has a big crack on the bell is that it actually had a small crack initially, and they attempted to fix it, and the crack actually got larger, and it's actually quite a renowned symbol of Philadelphia itself. And there's a lot of people here today visiting the Liberty Bell and taking photographs with it. I just want to have a look at some of the information that they've got here on display, because this museum actually is quite well signposted throughout the city. The whole historical centre itself is quite well signposted, and there are a number of things here to see and do. So I would say come down to the historical centre of Philadelphia and have a look at the early history of independence. And I'm just going to have a look right at the beginning and see what it says here, which information boards are useful actually. So it says the Liberty Bell's famous gap, often called a crack, and running from the lip toward crown, make it instantly recognizable. The gap is really the result of an attempt to fix a thin crack that destroyed the bell's tone at some moment after the American Revolution. So the repair work dates back to about 1846, it says on the sheet. And looking at some of the other information boards as well. One of the things about, particularly at that time, bells were used as a symbol of relaying information. So it's a tradition that essentially comes in from England, where you have things like town criers, yeomen, and it's something that, because the early independence movement, a lot of the even the founder of Pennsylvania, William Penn, he's actually born in London, and he died in a place called Ruscombe, Berkshire, which is not too far from where I live. So a lot of those traditions came from England, which you'd expect, because this was one of the colonies. And so this Liberty Bell Centre, I'd say, actually has got an X-ray of this in 1971 and 2001. So they've got X-rays of the crack. We've got a image of Nelson Mandela here, also the Dalai Lama. The world symbol for liberty. I think this actual centre is quite an interesting place. It's quite easy to navigate around, quite easy to walk around, and the signposts, actually information boards and displays that they've got in the museum, it's actually quite useful. It gives you insight into the early history of the US. The Constitution originally was drawn up in the city. I think the original Constitution is still on display, or printed copy is on display. We'll have to check. It's free to visit, actually. It's free to visit the Liberty Bell. There wasn't much of a queue actually to get in, so I would say visit the Liberty Bell and learn about the early history of the US, because Philadelphia itself is associated with the early history of the US, of the fight for independence, and a lot of the early history of the US, political history of the US, I should say. Benjamin Franklin is also buried nearby, so I'd say visit a lot of this side of Philadelphia. It's not too far from the city centre itself, and there's a number of sites actually associated with Philadelphia. The Independence Hall is nearby. That's also free tickets as well. You have to book in advance, but it's free tickets. This is free entry, so a lot of these things you don't even have to pay for. So I'd say come down, have a look at what the Liberty Bell looks like, the early, especially if you're interested in the early history of the US. Even if you're not interested in the early history of the US, it's actually quite nice being here. It's quite a nice building. The park surrounding it, Washington Park, is not too far from here. So I would say pop along to the Liberty Bell Center. And one thing I will say, actually, the bell is quite smaller than what I thought. When you look at images, the actual bell looks larger. But it's actually quite small, just looking at the Liberty Bell itself. There's also a donation box as well that I think you should contribute to, because it is free entry here, and it actually says the donations from this box will be used to support the program's preservation and maintenance of Independence National Historical Park, and to defray normal bank and processing fees for any foreign currency or coins donated. Mostly I can see dollars there. I can't see any foreign notes or coins there.
No, why waste our time?
But I will donate to the Liberty Bell Center because I'm always appreciative of when things are given for free. Not much in this world is provided for free, and it's always good when something like this is. And I think it should be customary to give a donation to them. I just remembered something else, actually, talking about free, almost free I should say. The actual Museum of Art, where the Rocky Steps are, that's actually pay you what you want on a Friday, and that's another good initiative as well, because a lot of these places are providing tourists and anyone else who's interested in art or architecture or history an opportunity to come and see these things. And I think it's good to contribute to these. I think in England we're used to now having museums for free. Most of the museums in the UK now are free. Natural History, Science Museum, and I think it's customary to donate and provide something for these museums. The same thing here, where I was surprised that this was actually free. So I think donate to the cause, donate to the preservation of this, because this is sorts of things that these go back in history. It's US history, it's Philadelphia's history, and it needs to be preserved so that 20 years time, 30 years, 40 years time, it's still standing here. 100 years time, it's still standing here. People can come and see the history. And so I say contribute to it, come and visit here, spend some time. You can spend half an hour here. There's fantastic grounds outside which I'll show you, that you can spend a lot of time relaxing. The day outside today is very sunny. Ever since I've been in the US, actually the weather was on the colder side, windy side, but it's actually improved in the last couple of days. And I think spending some time here, especially in this historic centre, you'll enjoy yourself. So just outside on the grounds of where the Liberty Bell Centre is, and it is, like I said, it's quite nice out here. There's a National Constitution Centre over there, and the Independence Visitor Centre just over there. And this whole area, especially when the weather's like this, it's actually quite nice to walk around and sit down. So you've got the Independence Hall just over there. That too is a free ticket. I think you've got to pay like an admin charge of, I think, $1, but that too is a free ticket to go in there and see a copy of the Constitution. I'm not sure if it's the original or if it's a copy, so that's something that I might check out. I haven't got tickets for today, so I'll have to see when I can get tickets for, if I can get tickets, or have I left it too late. Time will tell. But in this area where the Liberty Bell Centre is, it's called Liberty Park in New York. That's what I'm used to since I was there. But this whole historic area, actually, it does to a certain extent a lot of areas within Philadelphia remind me of England. Probably the only city I think so far that I've seen that reminds me very much of England. So this is where we are, where the Liberty Bell Centre is, and the Independence Halls was just over there. And that too actually was quiet this morning, so I'm actually disappointed that I didn't do much research beforehand, as I could have got tickets for today, because there was hardly anyone there. But you can't book on the day. I had a look this morning and there was no option to book. It was just greyed out. So if you do want to get here to the Independence the Independence Hall, I'd say that book beforehand, book prior, and get your tickets. Don't be disappointed like me, because I would have liked to have gone in there. Now that I'm actually in this area, it would have been worthwhile to see that alongside Liberty Bell as well. Liberty Bell, I should say, it was forged in the UK, in England. That's where the best forgers at the time, I'll say forgers. Actually, forgers sounds very dodgy, doesn't it? Forging was a big industry actually back then in the UK, up until the late 1960s, when they started closing down. But yeah, this actually is a nice area. It's actually makes coming in from New York, makes a change actually to come to somewhere where it's actually peaceful, because New York was hectic, busy, lots of people, tall buildings, skyscrapers, and coming here, it's actually therapeutic. But I think so far, from what I've seen of Philadelphia, especially as I went to the Museum of Art as well to see the Rocky Steps, it was all open areas there. There was an area, I think Logan Park, I crossed to get there. That too was very open, and it's quite nice actually being here. Makes a change. I'm not sure how long I'll be here for and where I'll go next, but like it says on this board over here, entrance for Liberty Bell, no tickets required. See, there you go, no tickets. You don't need any tickets to get here, ladies and gentlemen and children. So I would say make use of your time in Philadelphia and come down to see the Liberty Bell, because that is US history there. And if you can actually get tickets for the Independence Hall as well, you could combine that quite easily. Spend an hour or so, if not longer, discovering the history of the United States of America. From the Liberty Bell Centre, it's goodbye.